If you want to see a single case study in everything that's wrong with the Republican Party right now, look no further than Georgia, where Republicans there are so desperate to hold on to power that they've been putting intense, unbelievable pressure on one of their own, Georgia's Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. We've witnessed Trump call the Secretary of State a rhino. That means a Republican in name only, for refusing to go along with his ploy to undermine the election result there. We've also seen Georgia's two GOP senators, both of them locked in tight runoffs, go so far as to demand that he resign. We also know that Senator Lindsey Graham, not from Georgia, has pushed the Secretary of State to find a way to toss or lose ballots there. And now we know, thanks to reporting from ProPublica, that the arm twisting of their Secretary of State, a Republican, began months before Election Day. Quote, Raffensperger, a Republican, declined an offer in January to serve as an honorary co-chair of the Trump campaign in Georgia. It's according to emails reviewed by ProPublica. He later rejected GOP requests to support Trump publicly. He and his staff said in interviews. Raffensperger said he believed that because he was overseeing the election, it would be a conflict of interest for him to take sides. The attacks on his job performance are clear retaliation, Raffensperger said. Let's bring into our conversation Steve Schmidt, political strategist and co-founder of the Lincoln Project. Steve, I wanted to talk to you yesterday when this unlikeliest of heroes, someone who used to really not burst onto the national scene, a Secretary of State of either party simply doing their job and not being corruptible by Lindsey Graham or any efforts from the Trump campaign. But then when Trump, by tweet, fired Chris Krebs, who hardened our election systems, worked with states and localities to prevent foreign interference, it just seems, and Elizabeth Newman said something at the top of the show that really struck me at the time as something that is going to haunt the country for a long time, not just Republicans, but the whole country, that what Trump and his media allies have succeeded in doing is so contaminating the information ecosystem that up is down and down is up and truth is a lie and lie is the truth. And these two officials seem to epitomize that. What do you think?
Well, I think you're exactly right, Nicole. Look, at the end of the day, democracies are sustained on faith and belief by the people under which they're governed, believe in the legitimacy of the system. And so what we see here is this rare example in Trump's America of a Republican official with the qualities of probity, of rectitude, somebody who is discharging their public duties in an effective way, in an honest way. And you can see the smoke coming up from that decision, right? Like, it just confuses the whole Trumpian ecosystem, which is built on this foundation of dishonesty and corruption. And to see somebody acting in a contrary manner is just pretty remarkable in this moment in time.
But how did the whole party break bad? I mean, because I find Raffensperger exactly the way you describe him, this extraordinary, strong, honest public servant. But why is that breaking news these days? How did an entire political party become corrupt?
Become corrupted, become a cult of personality in service to Donald Trump. But now in the end, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Lindsey Graham, making calls to try to intimidate the Secretary of State in Georgia, asking him to disenfranchise voters, to just throw out ballots, trying to undermine the integrity of an election. Look, this was an election in the end that Republicans did well in the House of Representatives, down ballot legislative races. But Donald Trump lost, and he was dealt a decisive defeat. The election was fair. The results are clear. In America, what we've always done is move on. And the efforts to poison faith and belief in the result of this election in the minds of millions of Americans, which is being stoked by these Republican senators like Lindsey Graham, that's being stoked by other Republicans across the country. They're breaking of faith with American democracy, the most American ideas, that we decide, the people decide who governs us. And we do that through an election process. And so this behavior that we've seen will usher in a new destructive era in American democracy. We'll be dealing with the aftermath of the weeks that followed this election for decades in this country. It It is as tragic a thing as we've seen in the entirety of the Trump era. I mean, my personal view, Nicole, is you look at the 567 orphan children, an immoral act. You look at the hundreds of thousands of dead Americans that didn't have to be, terrible things. There is no action this man has taken that is worse than this final one and his defeat of the election, because the American system has been sustained on faith and belief in democracy since the 1790s. And Donald Trump is really the first person who has deliberately and premeditatively tried to poison it. And it's a tragic thing to watch it happen, watch it play out, and watch Republicans go along with it.
Should Joe Biden be open to investigating all three of those things, the child separation policy, the Trump White House's conduct in and around the pandemic, and other alleged crimes he committed?
Well, I think that there are different issues, Nicole. I think that the Justice Department, absent any touch of politics, should investigate if there were crimes, follow the evidence. On the question of should there be oversight at the congressional level, at an executive branch level, about what happened to those children's parents, of course there should be. Those actions were committed in my name and your name, and they are an outrage. They are immoral, and I believe the orders that enabled them were illegal. And so we should understand, and we should have a full public accounting for all of these things. And everybody who did wrong during this administration, whether it was thieving from the taxpayers, whether it's other conduct, if in the end there's criminal liabilities attached to that, for sure. The last thing we need, though, in this country is a second political party that invests themselves in the idea of lock up their political opponents, no matter how heinous or reprehensible they may be. We don't need a second party going into that space in America.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.